Hannibal Barca, known as the Scourge of Rome, was one of the greatest military strategists in history. His brilliant tactics and relentless determination allowed him to win battle after battle against the Romans. Over his 15-year campaign in Italy, he killed tens of thousands of Roman soldiers, with some estimates reaching up to 300,000. Hannibal was a master of tactical deception, outsmarting his enemies through calculated tricks. His most astonishing achievement was leading his army and war elephants across the Alps, defying expectations and striking fear into Rome. This daring feat remains one of the most legendary military moves ever. If you're fascinated by Hannibal's audacity, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into historical feats like this. In the 3rd century BC, the ancient world was dominated by two powerful forces, the Roman Republic and Carthage, a North African city-state. The two powers were locked in a struggle for control over the Western Mediterranean, a rivalry that would explode into the Second Punic War. Rome, a rapidly expanding republic, had already established dominance over most of Italy, while Carthage, with its strong naval forces, controlled large portions of North Africa and Spain. These two superpowers were vying for wealth, territory, and influence, with trade routes, valuable resources, and even slaves at the heart of their conflict. In 218 BC, the conflict escalated when Hannibal Barca, one of history's most brilliant military strategists, attacked the city of Saguntum, an ally of Rome located in what is now Spain. This act of defiance infuriated the Roman Senate and triggered the Second Punic War. Hannibal, born into a Carthaginian military family, had been groomed for war from a young age. His father, Hannibal Barca, had fought against Rome in the First Punic War, and Hannibal had sworn an oath to never be a friend of Rome. Now, as a commander of Carthage's army in Spain, he was determined to fulfill that promise by striking Rome at its core. Hannibal's march began in the autumn of 218 BC. Leaving from Iberia, modern Spain, Hannibal assembled a massive army of about 9,000 infantry, 12,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants. His army was composed of a mix of soldiers from various regions, including Spain, Africa, and the Gaul, each with its own fighting style and cultural background. Leading this diverse force, Hannibal planned to do what no one had done before: cross the treacherous, snow-covered Alps with an army and attack Italy from the north. The journey would be one of the most grueling in military history. As Hannibal led his army north through the Pyrenees Mountains and into Gaul, they faced numerous challenges. Some Gallic tribes were hostile, forcing Hannibal to fight several skirmishes along the way. He encountered fierce resistance from the Volcae along the Rhone River. The tribes saw him as a threat to their lands, and they assembled warriors to block his crossing. But he sent a detachment of his army upriver under cover of darkness, where they built rafts and crossed without detection. At dawn, they attacked the Gauls from the rear, just as Hannibal's main force launched an assault from the front. The surprise attack threw the tribal warriors into chaos, and they were routed. Hannibal's army secured the Rhone crossing, demonstrating not just his tactical brilliance, but his ability to adapt to local challenges. Crossing the Alps was a feat that had never been attempted on such a scale. These mountains, with their steep cliffs, narrow paths, and freezing temperatures, were considered an insurmountable barrier. Elephants in particular were animals associated with warm climates like deserts and rainforests, not the icy mountain peaks of Europe. The difficulty of leading elephants, creatures known for their size and power, but not for their agility, through such rugged terrain was unimaginable. Hannibal's army faced not only the physical obstacles of the mountains, but also constant attacks from the local tribes. He then faced more challenges as he entered the foothills of the Alps by the Allobroges. Known for their control of the rugged Alpine foothills and their warrior culture, the tribe exploited their intimate knowledge of the terrain, positioning warriors on high ground overlooking a narrow mountain path, a perfect choke point for an unsuspecting army. They intended to use the high ground to rain down projectiles while launching surprise attacks on his supply lines and rear guard. Hannibal, ever vigilant, anticipated the Allobroges' ambush. By night, he sent elite troops to scale the cliffs, striking down their positions at dawn and scattering them in chaos. Meanwhile, his main force marched steadily, using war elephants to intimidate and decoys to confuse the attackers. As the Allobroges faltered, Hannibal secured the pass, his army emerging battered but triumphant. It was a masterstroke of strategy, turning a deadly trap into yet another victory on his audacious march to Rome. Historians have debated which exact route Hannibal took across the Alps, with two main contenders, the Col della Traversette and the Col de Montsuni. The Col della Traversette is nearly 3,000 meters above sea level, a narrow and dangerous pass that fits the description of the hardships Hannibal's army faced. Archaeological evidence, including traces of ancient animal dung, supports this route. However, the Col de Montsounis, though lower and wider, may have been used to avoid even harsher conditions. The exact path remains unclear, but all accounts agree that the conditions were brutal. Snowstorms, avalanches, and freezing temperatures ravaged Hannibal's army as they made their way through the mountains. Men and animals slipped on the icy paths, falling to their deaths in the ravines below. As they climbed higher, the weather grew worse. Snow and ice made it nearly impossible to navigate the narrow passes, and the freezing temperatures weakened both men and animals. Many of the elephants, which had been brought to strike fear into the hearts of the Romans, died during the crossing. The cold, combined with the lack of food and supplies, led to widespread suffering. Hannibal's men had to clear paths through the snow and ice, cutting through rock to make way for the surviving elephants to pass. Livy, a Roman historian, wrote of the dreadful conditions Hannibal's army endured, describing how they had to carve new paths through landslides, using fire and tools just to continue their march. Hannibal emerged from the icy grip of the Alps in 218 BCE, his army decimated. Only 26,000 of the original 50,000 survived the brutal crossing. As the soldiers staggered into the fertile plains of northern Italy, hope came in the form of the Boii and the Insubres, powerful Gallic tribes who despised Roman rule. These tribes greeted Hannibal as a liberator, offering him 20,000 to 30,000 warriors, infantry, cavalry, and supplies. For the weary soldiers, this was salvation. Their numbers swelled, their spirits lifted. The alliance transformed his force from a struggling remnant into a formidable army, nearly 50,000 strong, now bolstered with local knowledge and fresh fighters. To the Roman world, the sight of Hannibal uniting these tribes must have been terrifying. For Hannibal, it was a moment of triumph, a sign that his gamble had paid off and his Italian campaign had truly begun. As Hannibal descended from the icy Alps into the fertile plains of Cisalpine Gaul in 218 BCE, he stood atop a ridge, surveying the land he had fought so hard to reach. The Po Valley, with its rebellious Gallic tribes and rich resources, stretched out before him, a place of opportunity and danger. His army, though battered, was ready for battle. Of the 50,000 men who had started the journey, 4,000 cavalry, a handful of war elephants, and a deep resolve. Turning to his soldiers, Hannibal proclaimed, "We have not come merely to fight for Italy, but to strike at the heart of Rome itself." The sight of those towering elephants, the disciplined troops, and determined cavalry was a testament to his ambition. His words echoed across the valley, marking the beginning of a campaign that would challenge the might of Rome. Hannibal's crossing of the Alps remains one of the most extraordinary military feats ever achieved. His ability to lead an army through such treacherous terrain against overwhelming odds stands as a testament to his genius as a military strategist. Even his enemies, like Scipio Africanus and the Roman historian Cornelius Nepos, admired his brilliance. Hannibal's name is remembered not just for his victories on the battlefield, but for the sheer boldness and determination that defined his campaign. Hannibal's strategies have influenced notable commanders throughout history, including Napoleon Bonaparte, Frederick the Great, and even General Norman Schwarzkopf in modern times. His ability to think several steps ahead and exploit weaknesses in his enemies makes him a timeless figure in the study of warfare, a man whose tactics are still studied in military schools around the world today. Imagine being the mastermind who brought Rome to its knees, only to face betrayal. What became of Hannibal after his legendary victories? Subscribe and join me next time to uncover the truth.